Good morning, foxes and badgers. It's Mrs. Martin here with our reading for today. So today we are going to be having a look at a poem called The Adventures of Isabel. So can you make sure that you have had a read of that poem for me already? And then we will move on to looking at our vocabulary. So pause the video here if you've not yet read the poem for me. Okay, on to our vocabulary that you will have come across then. So the first word you would have seen would be bulged. Bulged. Now if something has bulged, it means it's swelled, it's swollen, or it's sticking out. So sometimes you might hear people saying their belly bulged if it was sticking out. Cavernous. If something is cavernous, it's almost like a cave. It's huge, vast, empty space. Okay. Concocter. Now you might recognize concoct from our story that we were doing in the first half of this term of George's Marvellous Concoction. So a concocter is the person who mixed all the ingredients up. Someone who concocts, someone who mixed the ingredients. So if we're thinking about our story, the concocter was, of course, George. Forehead. Can you point to your forehead? Well done if you knew it was the part of your face between your eyebrows and your hairline. Ravenous. I know I'm always using this word in Fox's class. Ravenous means you are really hungry. Rancor means to be bitter or resentful. So not being very kind to one another. And it's often long-standing, so it's been going on for a very long time. And a satchel is a small leather bag, a bit like this one. So often I think of a satchel as being like almost a handbag style, but often men have satchels. They're very popular in like World War II kind of times. Lots of children would have had satchels, which they would have carried their belongings to school in. Scurry. Scurry means to move quickly. Lots of short, quick steps. And a zwieback is a small, like toasted biscuit, or like a bit like a rusk. So it's a bit like a really dry, crisp piece of a biscuit, but almost sometimes they look like a bread shape as well. So an item of food. Okay, and let's have a look at our poem then. So, Adventures of Isabel. Isabel met an enormous bear. Isabel didn't care. The bear was hungry. The bear was ravenous. The bear's big mouth was cruel and cavernous. The bear said, "Isabel, glad to meet you." "How do, Isabel? Now I'll eat you." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She washed her hands and she straightened her hair up. Then Isabel quickly ate the bear up. Once in a night as black as pitch, Isabel met a wicked old witch. The witch's face was cross and wrinkled. The witch's gums with teeth were sprinkled. "Ho, ho, Isabel," the old witch crowed, "I'll turn you into an ugly toad." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She showed no rage and she showed no rancor, but she turned the witch into milk and drank her. Isabel met a hideous giant. Isabel continued self-reliant. The giant was hairy, the giant was horrid. He had one eye in the middle of his forehead. "Good morning, Isabel," the giant said. "I'll grind your bones to make my bread." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She nibbled the zwieback that she always fed off, and when it was gone, she cut the giant's head off. Isabel met a troublesome doctor. He punched and he poked till he really shocked her. The doctor's talk was of coughs and chills, and the doctor's satchel bulged with pills. The doctor said unto Isabel, "Swallow this, it will make you well." Isabel didn't worry. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She took those pills from the pill concocter, and Isabel calmly cured the doctor. There we go, there's our poem of The Adventures of Isabel. I think I can see a theme with our poems here, almost a theme about fear, isn't it? And bravery, not worrying. Okay, let's have a look at our retrieval questions. So those ones where we just need to skim and scan the text. You have a read of the questions and then try and answer all of them in your books for me. Pause the video here. See if you can answer all those questions. I've just deleted one because I realised that I'd accidentally copied that from the last lesson. Have a go at these 5 questions for me. Okay, so we're looking for 4 people that Isabel met. So if we skim and scan our text, who did she meet? Well, she met, there's our keyword, an enormous bear. Who else did she meet? She met, there's our keyword again, a wicked old witch. Let's see if there was anybody else. She met a hideous giant. And she met a troublesome doctor. Who did Isabel eat? So our keyword here, we're skimming and scanning, and we're looking for that word, eat. Okay, so we've got the past tense here, ate. Then Isabel quietly ate the bear up. Isabel ate the bear. What did Isabel do to the giant? So we're looking for giant. Where are we going to see giant in here? Skim and scan. Here we go. I can see giant. Now we're looking for what she did. Read all around and see what it says Isabel did to the giant. Here we go. She cut the giant's head off. So our answer here should be that she cut the giant's head off. What did the doctor ask Isabel to do? So I'm looking for the part about the doctor. Here we go. Remember the doctor being at the end. What did he ask her to do? He said, swallow this. It will make you well. So he wanted her to swallow the pills that he had. And then find and copy 2 adjectives that describe the witch. So we're skimming and scanning again. We're going back to the bit about the witch. Here we go. So it says wicked and old. So wicked and old are our 2 adjectives to describe the witch. Okay, let's have a think about some of those more inferential questions now. Isabel didn't scream or scurry. She washed her hands and she straightened her hair up. What do these 2 lines tell us about how Isabel reacted to meeting the bear? Consider her emotions or personality traits, and then see if you can summarize that reaction in 1 word. Pause the video here for me. Okay, hopefully you've got something along the lines of her being very brave. She was very calm when she met him. Her personality traits, well, when he said he was going to eat her, she didn't scream or scurry, she washed her hands. So she almost didn't think anything of it, did she? She wasn't at all worried about the bear and what he was going to do. as she straightened her hair up, so she thought she had time to even play with her hair and make sure it was all neat again. So if I were going to summarize her reaction in one word, I think my word might be brave, or perhaps calm. She was very calm when this bear was planning on eating her up. Okay. Isabel met a wicked old witch. The witch's face was cross and wrinkled. The witch's gums with teeth were sprinkled. What do these 3 lines imply about the witch's appearance? And what is the author's intention in describing the witch in such a way? Pause the video here for me and have a think about those answers. Okay, so it says her face was cross and wrinkled, gums with teeth were sprinkled. So she didn't have a full mouth of teeth, she just had a few in there sprinkled, a few dotted around her mouth. So they're trying to give the impression that the witch looked quite scary, aren't they? She's quite a petrifying character, not one that I would want to come across, definitely. She was wicked and old, cross and wrinkled. Now, the author's intention about this, you have to think carefully about this, because the author would have chosen those words for a reason. And the reason the author has chosen to describe this witch as being so horrid, being so scary, is to show just how brave Isabel was. If they describe the witch as being a kind old lady with a fresh basket of bread that they were offering and a big beaming smile across her face, that wouldn't give us the impression that the witch was a really horrible person and that Isabel was brave when she confronted her. They've given us the impression that the witch is really scary, because then that makes us think, oh my goodness, how brave is Isabel? Okay, question 8. Find one piece of evidence from the text to support each statement. So this time you're searching the text and you're trying to find something in the text that tells us Isabel was brave, and then something in the text that tells us the doctor was unpleasant to Isabel. Have a skim and a scan of the text and see if you can find those quotes to put into the box. How do we know that those things are true? Okay, so there are lots of ones we could have that Isabel was brave. It said that when she came across an enormous bear, she didn't care. It says Isabel didn't worry. She didn't scream or scurry. All of those tell us that she wasn't scared. I wonder if there are any more. So I'm going to just skim and scan the rest of the text again. We've got the same ones again. So that she didn't worry. She didn't scream or scurry. They all show us that she wasn't scared. And again, we've got it at the end. She didn't worry. She didn't scream or scurry. And the second one, we're looking for some evidence that the doctor was unpleasant to Isabel. So we're skimming and scanning. We want the part on the doctor and something that tells us he was unpleasant to her. Now, I would say it's definitely unpleasant that he punched and poked her. So that would be my quote I would be putting in that box. I would be writing, he punched and poked her. That would be my evidence from the text to support the fact that the doctor was unpleasant to her. Isabel continued, self-reliant. What do you believe it means if Isabel is self-reliant? And see if you can think of an example of when you have been self-reliant. Now for this one, it might help to reread, find that bit where it says she was self-reliant and think about what the author means by that. Pause the video here for me. Okay, so we're looking for self-reliant, which I can see is here. Isabel met a hideous giant. Isabel continued self-reliant. So if she's self-reliant, that means that she's doing it by herself. She isn't depending upon anyone else to help her. She's quite confident with doing it herself. Now remember, when I'm writing the definition for a word like this, I can't use self-reliant within my answer. So I wouldn't get the marks if I said self-reliant means she was reliant on herself, because I've just used the words again. A good example of an answer would be something like, Isabel was self-reliant. This meant that she didn't depend upon anyone else. She looked after herself. Okay? You might be able to think of lots of examples when you have been self-reliant. Perhaps you made yourself breakfast one day. Perhaps you get your clothes out ready for the morning. Perhaps you pack your school bag ready. Perhaps if you've been lucky enough to go on a trip away at any point, you were in charge of packing your own bag. So self-reliant is all of those times that you've had to do something by yourself. You couldn't rely on anybody else at home to help you. You had to do it yourself. She took those pills from the pill concocter, and Isabel calmly cured the doctor. What do you think it means when she cures the doctor? What was wrong with him? Have a think about what our answer could be here. Pause the video and have a go at writing one down for me. Now I'm thinking if it says she cures the doctor, she was making him better, and actually it's already given us a bit of a clue in a previous question. He wasn't very kind to Isabel. So I think when she says she cures him, maybe she makes him kind. She makes him treat his patients nicely, because you remember he wasn't nice. He was poking, and what else was it he did to her? Punching, wasn't it? He punched and poked her. So I think perhaps if she was curing him, she made him a nice doctor again. Okay, and our last one, a bit of a different one this time. I would like you to rewrite each of these phrases, but you've got to retain the original meaning and context. So that means you need to use different words, but the meaning needs to stay the same. So rather than Isabel didn't scream or scurry, what could I say instead? Rather than she showed no rage and she showed no rancor, what could I say? And rather than once in a night as black as pitch, what could I say if I were the poet instead of that phrase? Pause the video here. Okay, so for number one, rather than Isabel didn't scream or scurry, you could have had something as simple as Isabel wasn't scared. That would work perfectly. Number two, she showed no rage and she showed no rancor. So perhaps for that one, I would have something like she stayed calm. She wasn't angry. And then our third one, once in a night as black as pitch. Once in a night as black as pitch. If I was doing this one, I think I would just put one dark night. Okay? Can you please make sure you send your answers into your teacher so we can have a look at your fantastic work?